Taco Salad is a production of GeekTaco.com. Please bookmark GeekTaco.com for the latest in geek culture news. Now, on with your show. Hello and welcome everyone once again to Geek Taco. Or Taco Salad, actually. I'm still getting used to it. This is only the second episode. Yes, but welcome to your multi-ingredient podcast that's for everything that is delicious in geek culture. I am your host, Matthew, and with me tonight is Chris Cowan. And unfortunately, Kaylee Chambers will not be with us this evening. She had some issues. She's not feeling well. We wish her a speedy recovery, but this evening she will not be with us. So it's just the boys talking tonight. So what's been going on, Chris?
Just getting caught up with all of the craziness that is Marvel's Civil War II event. I was a couple of weeks behind on my comic shopping, so I caught up on that. Got caught up on the X-Men Apocalypse Wars crossover.
How's that one going?
It's going well. They call it a crossover, but it's not really a crossover. It is spread across the three X-Men titles: Extraordinary X-Men.
Sorry, I had to stop
X-Men.
you there. Don't call it a crossover. I've been here for years. Sorry,
Exactly.
I had to say that.
So yeah, it's running through All New, Uncanny, and Extraordinary X-Men, but each one, as opposed to kind of running the teams into each other, Uncanny X-Men is dealing with the present-day fallout of Apocalypse. All New X-Men is dealing with Apocalypse in the past.
Now, I heard something recently. I'm sorry for interrupting you. Something called the Death of X. What is that?
Coming in, I believe, August, and they're finally going to throw back the curtain on the whole what happened between Cyclops and the Inhumans that have made mutants kind of a hated and feared thing again, and has made Cyclops into an even more villainous figure than he already was in Marvel, given what happened between him and Professor X. So that's coming
lovely.
I believe, August.
That's exactly what we need.
Yeah, and then Extraordinary X-Men is dealing with Apocalypse in the future. So, like I said, All New X-Men, we've got Evan, who is a clone of Apocalypse from Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force series.
Yeah, he's known as like Genesis,
or Evan Apocalypse, as some people call him. So he and Beast have been thrust into the past, and they've run into the young pre-Apocalypse original in Nur before he becomes evil. And they're, Evan is sort of it's what they got into in Uncanny X-Force was the nature and nurture side of, if he just grows up and we leave him alone, will he become Apocalypse?
Yeah.
Or is he forced to become Apocalypse? So this just brings in a little more, and I don't really want to get into any spoiler stuff here. This just sort of brings into the forefront the whole nature and nurture argument and sets up maybe this is why he's evil, maybe this is why he isn't. So we get some really good heartfelt conflict between Evan and the young time-stranded Hank McCoy from the 60s X-Men, who's been running around Marvel.
Yep.
Uncanny X-Men, it's the present day. Apocalypse's son is up to some shenanigans involving Warren Worthington, since he was the previous incarnation of Apocalypse and was also the Horseman Death for a while.
Yes, it was. That's a very... Man, his backstory is just all kinds of messed up.
Yeah, so now there's the time-stranded 60s Angel, who also has had his powers augmented through sort of celestial means, and has like burning energy wings now, and is dating the young female clone of Wolverine.
Okay, that's X-23, right?
Yeah, X-23.
And who has the light wings again? I'm confused. I'm just lost at this point.
Yeah, that's young teenage Angel. There is a current grown-up Archangel who is a mindless husk, and then a couple of issues ago, we meet the white-skinned, blonde-haired...
Okay, Chris, you're just exemplifying the issue I have with effing comics. It happened with the death of Jean Grey back, I think, what is it, 70s?
That was in the 80s.
80s, okay, the death of where the stories can't be stories. Because of the continuity in bringing people back, it drives me bonkers. Just utterly bonkers. Because I'm like, you can't have a beginning, middle, and end. There is no end. It never ends. I don't understand. I would love, and I'm going to go on a soapbox rant for just a minute if you give me a few moments.
Stand upon your soapbox, sir.
All right. What I want is when you get a new writer and a new artist, in on. I want them to have their own like 6 to 8 issue series, like mini series, and like I want them to tell a whole story, and I want it to be over and done with. I mean, and stories that come later don't necessarily have to follow the continuity of that story. I just want that. That would be far more interesting. If you're not going to do that, then you need to like have your editors come down and go, "This is continuity. You can never retcon. This will always be what it is." Because it drives me nuts. Because you get what happened to Warren Worthington III. He's a mindless husk. There's a young version of him. He's got light wings. He's dating a clone of Wolverine. I'm effing confused. Sorry, I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. That was
Yeah, no, that actually, when they, because there's actually three Warren Worthingtons now. There were
all
only
right. All right,
two.
oh, we're done. We're done with the subject. We're done. Cutting it.
Okay.
All right, but
But
let's.
anyway, so Uncanny X-Men and the Apocalypse Wars deals with current times, and then Extraordinary X-Men, which I'm an issue behind on because Diamond shorted my comic shop,
Oh no,
deals with,
problems with Diamond. That's a shocker.
yeah, oh no, it has Colossus and a group of the younger X-Men, like Glob Herman and Anil and Irma, No Girl, etc. Some of the Grant Morrison kind of freak show students from back from his run. They're thousands of years in the future dealing with Apocalypse there, so
So
I'm
this
curious.
Apocalypse War is literally like all the, not a crossover, but it's like it's dealing with multiple timelines, kind of like Next Generation did towards the end of the series, like with
It's just a thematic like someone's dealing with apocalypse and living
in every version and
every
every
era.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Well, as much as I want to, we could talk about comic books literally for like 4 hours. We need to move on to some other pieces of the news.
okay.
I got a couple pieces that I want to go over with you, as it should be pretty obvious now. Pokemon Go is everywhere. This is news is a couple days old, but it basically became one of the most popular United States app in like 5 days from launch. It is all over the place. Everyone's playing it. I've got friends who are like, I've already lost weight because I did Pokemon every day. I mean, like, Pokemon's going to be like a verb now. It's like, I'm going to go poke or something. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
you've already got state legislatures, passing down Pokemon and drive laws. I believe it's even passed Tinder as like the most downloaded app. So
Yeah, it's
that'll tell you
every.
where people's priorities are.
I mean, people are spending money on it, so that's good because that means they're going to get more content down the line. It will be supported. I just read today that Nintendo literally like broke the stock market. It quadrupled its stock shares by doing nothing because Nintendo does not own Niantic. The people who actually made the app and own Nintendo only owns like a third to a half of the rights of Pokemon. So literally, they did nothing, and they're making like triple, quadruple their money. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
I'm only
I've been
level 8
reading
though.
that they're planning on being able to sort of have a sponsored Pokestopmanship. Like I, as a business owner, can be just hand Niantic or Niantic some
Yeah,
money and just be like, turn my business into a Pokestop or
yeah,
turn it
they're
into a gym.
yeah, they're talking about that you can actually, even players can request certain areas to become Pokestops or gyms. That's something they're working on. I think it's something you can do. I don't think it's like direct to the app, but I think it's you can request it through their website.
Yeah, it's the same thing you could do with Ingress.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting on Digimon Go, where all I need to do is download a browser plugin and it just tracks my web traffic, and that's how I capture my Digimon. Don't have to leave the house.
Oh man,
I'm gonna double
I don't want to
down.
see the actual Digimon from the actual internet. All right,
Yeah,
no.
I'm gonna double down on my commitment to obesity and never leave the house.
Oh man, you could stand and gain a few pounds there, big man.
I
Uh,
actually was trying to lose weight, but anyway.
but all right. And another piece of news that I'm really excited about. I'll be talking about this on the next episode of my podcast for Polyhedron. But I wanted to bring it up here too. Is there is a new Let's Play, RPG Let's Play, sponsored and run by Dan Harmon of Community fame. It is called Harmon Quest, and literally, I've seen the first episode, and what it is, he's got 3 or 4 of his friends. One is an ever rotating sort of special guest. Generally, these are relatively famous people, and he plays a session of Dungeons and Dragons with his favorite DM, Spencer. And they animate it. That's before a live audience, and they animate it for the episode. And I watched like the first 10 minutes of the first episode. It's really funny. It will really. It's what I love about it more than its entertainment is that it will teach normal people what role playing is, and I'm super excited about that. I just am, and it's funny, and it's just funny because Dan Harmon's a funny guy.
I'm just going to admit the sin. I have never ever watched Community before. I watched like Office. I watched Parks and Rec. Never seen
It
Community.
is Community is absolutely up your alley for humor. All right, I task you by next week. Watch the first episode of Community. Just watch the first episode. I'm not asking you to
Okay.
watch the whole thing by next week. Just watch the first episode, and from there you can kind of judge if you'll like it or hate it.
All right. Although speaking of TV shows, I did catch the first few episodes of the new Netflix series Stranger Things. Have you heard of that one?
Yes, me and my wife are gonna start watching that together at some point when we have time.
It is a bizarre love letter to just 80s magical realism movies involving small children.
I know
It it
that's why I want
is
to
it
watch
is
it.
like E.T. meets the Goonies, like, but it's a little bit of X-Files with a smidgen of Twin Peaks thrown in there.
I'm okay with that. You know, me and my wife, we don't have a TV show right now that we watch together, and we've been trying to like we were thinking about watching Grimm, but we're like we've seen some of that before, and I wasn't super interested. She's not into like things like Once Upon a Time, so I was just like, well, what about this thing called Stranger Things? It looks like sort of dark Spielberg esque, Stephen King esque TV show, and it's gotten really good reviews. So I was like, why don't we watch that? And she's like, yeah, sure, whenever we got time to do it. So I'm eager to see that. I'm glad you give it you give it your approval, as it were.
If you've ever wanted to watch Winona Ryder slowly spiral into madness, kind of like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, like it is just right up your alley.
All right, I'm there. I'm utterly sold. I love everything you just said. All right, so that's a stamp of approval from Chris Cohen on Stranger Things. The next bit of news, yes, I think it was released today. Game of Thrones is confirmed for summer of 2017, and it will only have 7 episodes. So I know everyone's dying for the next season, but it's confirmed we are going to get less overall Game of Thrones, but it should be, I would say, tighter packed, more hopefully better quality, because they're going to throw more money per episode at
And
us.
oddly enough, winter is the reason it's delayed until summer.
Huh,
They're
weird.
having weather issues in some of the filming locations.
Hmm.
Other TV shows, Sony's original TV series Powers, based upon the graphic novel by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Avon Oeming, is just about to wrap up season two.
Okay,
If you
how is
caught
that? How is that?
it,
How is that series? Because I've watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I like some of it, but I was just like, I can't get into this. Let me go watch Heroes or Alphas. I much
yeah,
prefer that.
I'm a big fan of the books. I do like the show. Season one, I will admit, had its issues. There was just a little bit of production value and just some of the special effects budgeting I felt could have been done better. The cast is phenomenal. Season one, the main villain is played by Eddie Izzard, who is
Yeah, but I couldn't get into him being the villain. I'm like, you're a pudgy British man. I can't. You don't scare me. I don't care how fantastical your powers are. You don't scare me.
he gets scary final few episodes, but just him in the prison cell trying to kind of do the Hannibal Lecter thing, I was like, this is interesting, and I love Eddie. But it wasn't until they really let him cut loose in the later episodes that you were like, oh, that's why he was in prison.
Okay, well that okay. At some point, I will wander in, and if I got some free time, I'll check it out.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
I will say season two, which is actually strange. The season two story is actually the first story arc from the comic books. Who Killed Retro Girl? They
oh,
flipped
cool.
it. The wolf story shows up later in the first volume, and they fixed some of the problems. The special effect budgeting is a lot tighter. I feel like they just decided some of the power effects just looked kind of goofy, sort of Adam
Some of
West
the
60s
costuming looks
Batman.
super goofy. Like
Yeah,
it didn't
it's
look good at
intentional.
all. I
It's
don't know
it,
if that was intentional though. Like they wanted to make it look weird because it's super. It's supposed to be superheroes in the real world.
Yeah, there is a bit of that Batman 66 type vibe to it. they've improved some of the costuming. Actually, there's a couple of jokes about some of the costuming in season one with the Michelle Forbes retro girl talking about the sort of that comic sort of halter top mini skirt combo she's wearing versus her modern appearance is just her in a jumpsuit. And then she does remark that it was very prone to wardrobe malfunctions, and she had one and never wore it again. Um, so yeah, season two, they've the costumes look better. The only one that's really in sort of a goofy costume is the new retro girl. She wears the classic like halter top, tank top, skirt combo. I don't know if the actress that plays her just actually has abs that good or if it's all makeup, but they look phenomenal.
Well,
I
at least if you're
question.
gonna watch season 2, you have that looking forward to everyone.
Yeah, I will definitely tell you. Michael Madsen plays Super Shock, who is the Powers Universe equivalent of Superman.
Yeah,
He's a level 10 on a scale
yeah.
of 1 to 10 for being a power. I'm gonna bet dollars that his muscles are mostly padding in his costume. Um, but no, they've tightened it up. They've cut down on sort of the goofy energy beam special effects. That's mostly been relegated to Zora, one of the younger up and coming powers. And with
hmm
her, even in season one, the way they did her powers rendering looks fantastic and looks exactly like how it's described and illustrated in the comics.
Well,
Uh,
that's one of the good things about using a comic book as your sort of blueprint for a TV show. They translate very easily to one or the other. I actually find that TV is, if you're going to do comic book stuff, really good comic book stuff, you should really do a television show. The only problem is you generally are constrained by budget. Like, budget keeps you from doing, like, Avengers would have been a better story if you could do it in like 5 or 6 episodes, if you could have that budget over 5 or 6 episodes. But you can't in a television show because there's just not that much money and revenue that can be generated off that. You'd be just burning money away.
yeah, I'll tell you, the core of the story is really a man searching for purpose in life after
Right,
what
because he
he
doesn't have
has.
powers, right? He lost
He doesn't have
his.
powers anymore. Yes, he lost them. The explanation for that is different in the TV show than how it is in the comics,
Mm,
but he's searching for purpose in life. And there's flashbacks sort of throughout the series of his young, cocky superhero self, and then his older self, and his in between self of spiraling into just depression and alcoholism.
yeah,
And
I saw enough episodes of the beginning because that was the main narrative that he's a cop now who lost his powers because of Eddie Izzard's character. What was his name?
Wolf.
Wolf. Because of Wolf, he lost his powers, and he's dealing with, I was once basically a god and now I'm mortal, and he has to deal with that. And that's interesting. So keep me appraised to how that is. Do you let me know if they get a third season or not?
I know I follow the book creators who are also heavily involved with. I think they're more heavily involved in the show running during season two than they were in season one. I think I was reading so they've listened to some of the fan complaints and they were like, "We'll get more involved in the show and try to fix some problems."
To
So
give it a nice facelift.
yeah, they're building towards a really really nice finale. So I'm hoping it lives up to what I have built in my mind
So
as the finale.
since we're talking about superhero TV shows, have you ever did you ever see Alphas?
No, it has been on
Okay,
my list of stuff to watch,
please
and I
watch
just
it.
never got around to it.
It starts out, I wouldn't say slow because you could say that to every television show in its first season. It starts out trying to bill itself as sort of like realistic superpowers, like, hey, you have these cool like heightened senses, but because you have heightened senses, it kind of sucks for you because you can smell everything and you can hear everything and you can see everything, and like you just see that the world we actually live in is like dirty and loud and messy. And so they sort of build like you get cool superpowers, but you have these drawbacks, and they do a really good job of making an ensemble cast of all these different types of people with all these weird types of powers. Like the black guy who's a cop. He can like basically inject himself at will with adrenaline, but he's likely to have a heart attack at any time he does that because he's just overclocking the system. And so it creates this really cool dynamic dichotomy as they try to use their powers to help people and try to keep themselves on the down low, keep people from knowing that they exist. It's very good, and season one ends with a like very robustly, but season 2 is where it kicks off because they start treating it more like the X-Men, and like they start doing away with, like, in story they do away with a lot of the drawbacks and sort of embrace that they have superpowers, and it becomes a much more interesting show because then you start getting like a group. Basically you have the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants running around that they have to fight against, and it's all about what are they going to do, what do alphas mean, and sort of like what their purpose in life with normal people is. It's a really good show, and I'm really, really sad that it never got a third season. It
Okay,
would.
well, I will watch Community and I will watch Alphas if you watch Powers and Stranger Things.
Okay, I've already seen Powers, so I'm already ahead of the game on that.
Well,
I'll try to
finish
watch at
up
least
season one.
a few episodes of Stranger Things. I'm almost done with Hannibal season 3, which is really good, by the way. Everyone should watch Hannibal, but not when you've just eaten. Yeah,
Fair enough.
that's my warning there. Hannibal is a mouthful. Bada bing. Uh,
Another piece of geek news: the new Nintendo console they've announced for release in November. The throwback retro NES style. It's got about, I think, 30 or
okay,
so
it's not really a
preloaded
console
games.
because it's not a console because you can't put new games into it. You can't. It comes with pre-programmed 60 classic games. The control, it's $60 the whole thing. I want to get one because, man, I want it for my kids. I want to get
Yeah,
it.
I still have an original NES from the 80s.
I know
I've
you
I,
do.
I think I've got about half the games that they packaged it with.
Well, you don't need it then.
Well, there's some of it, like I still have an original, the gold Legend of Zelda cartridge, but I doubt I could actually save a game and recall it because it's battery operated. And so I'm fairly certain the battery's been long dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the games I have for it, I had the little Game Boy Advance re-releases. The only reason I own a DS at all was for the re-release of Metroid.
For people
Uh,
who may be listening in the podcast, hello, future people. What we're talking about is what's the official name of it?
I just skimmed the headline and was like, ooh, new console.
Yeah, there's a. It's not a console, but it's basically a prepackaged. It looks like an old classic NES system, but it is got modern technology in it. It's got 60 of the old classic, like all the classics, all the Mario's, the Zeldas, all of it. It's got like, I think it's got a Boy and His Blob. It's got a whole bunch of these NES games pre-programmed in there, and it has HDMI inputs and outputs, and the controllers are modern. Oh well, they have the old style, but they're all the connective technology is all modern, and so it will play on any new modern television with new, better quality. Now they're not remade HD versions of those games, but they will at least play well on modern televisions. And it's $60. You'll be able to buy it in when Chris?
I believe it's coming out in November, so
Okay.
it's, kids, put that on your Christmas list.
Yeah, I want to buy one. I want to have one for my kids. I'll play with it, and then when my kids are old enough to start messing around, I'll be like, here, don't break the PS6 or 10 or whatever I got by that point. Play this. This is what you learn on. This is how games are built, and this is how you should play games. And then when they're older, they can start playing the more advanced stuff.
Yeah, I cut my teeth on the Atari 2600 with the one joystick, the one button, and when I got into my 20s and tried this whole two joystick, two triggers thing, I was completely
I have
lost.
20,000 buttons. What do I
More
do?
buttons than I have fingers. I was like, I just want a keyboard and a mouse so I can not be horrible at Call of Duty and Counter-Strike.
Yep. Well, that does us for the news. We kind of went all over the place, but that's good. I like that. We're gonna go on to the main subject for this evening, which is sequels versus reboots. Which one's better? Which one's worse? What are your thoughts?
I take it on a case-by-case basis. Sometimes, when I see that they're putting out a sequel to a movie 20, 30 years later, I shake my head. I'm like, why? Why does this need to be done?
What did?
I know Ghostbusters is just a big headline grabber, and I understand with the passing of Harold Ramis, just sequels are just flat out as impossible as they were with Bill Murray not really wanting to do it. They're even more impossible now that we're missing, one of the original cast members who was
Yep.
also one of the creative geniuses
Not Dan
behind the
Aykroyd.
scenes.
Which one?
Harold
It
Ramis.
was Harold Ramis. I'm sorry, I
Yeah, it's
got
Harold
confused for a
Ramis.
second.
So we still have Ernie Hudson, we still got Dan Aykroyd, we still got Bill Murray,
Right.
but missing
Yep.
Harold Ramis. He was he's a director, he's a writer.
He was
It
kind of
just
the
became
heart of it.
impossible. Yeah, he was really he and Dan Aykroyd were kind of the heart of it. So sequels became impossible. Like RoboCop, I was like honestly past like RoboCop 2 that they didn't need sequels. They
Oh
definitely
no,
didn't
they
need a
didn't. No, they didn't.
reboot.
Dude, all right. So little Matthew backstory here. I love movies, and when in my 20s, guess what I did on my free time with my free cash is I went to Blockbuster and rented like the crappiest movies. Like I've watched all of the Poltergeists. I have watched all of the Omens. I've watched all of the Prophecies. I've watched all of the RoboCops. All of like the bad sequels that people say this is why you don't make sequels. I watched them. And yeah, RoboCop past the second one, don't watch it. The
Yeah,
TV show
I
is not bad. The TV show is interesting, but that's not a sequel.
yeah. Like actually, I do really want to see the reboot of Ghostbusters just because I don't go into a reboot expecting like just a remake of the old movie. I was like I really just look and see does it capture the soul of the
Yeah. I
movie
mean,
in
there's
this
an
case.
aesthetic, there's an overall. Does it get across what the original was getting across, which is this weird sci fi modern romp using ghosts as its media? Um, I will go see it myself. I'm not prejudging it. There have been some pretty decent reviews. All the reviewers that I like listening to and reading, I've said, yeah, it's a good movie. It holds. It's a little held back because it's a reboot, but it tries to tie itself too much to the original to almost be like a sequel. And I'm like, and that's what gave me the idea for the subject for the night was because like sequels are a continuation of a story. That's what they're supposed to be. Reboots are like we are going to try to modernize a story that is old without being tied to the continuity of what has come previously. And I think they may have done a bit of disservice. And again, granted, this is me armchairing this. I haven't seen the movie yet. And I think with Ghostbusters, they may have tried to get too much nostalgia in there and not try to do their own thing because they may have gotten more mileage out of the all female cast and the all female modern cast by saying you are your own thing. Now we will take what we got to call it a reboot, so it's got to have some connection to Ghostbusters the original. So let's take a moment. Let's take a few pieces here and there, but let's not try to wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge the audience too much. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the J.J. Abrams Star Trek is the perfect example because it tried to be both a reboot and a sequel and completely, in my mind, failed at both of them.
I really liked it. I thought it did really good as a reboot because he literally told off the entire audience at the end saying it's a new timeline. It's a new
Yes,
continuity.
I felt like that was a cop out because all of the other Trek fanboys were like, "Oh my God, if there's a new Star Trek movie, what happens to it?" I don't know what gets in people's minds that if somebody reboots a movie franchise, that suddenly mystically every DVD, every TV is just erased from reality and can't exist as fun and enjoyable stories. But
It
it,
has to do with the idea. It's all about expectation management and like understanding that people don't like change, and when you start messing with what they've seen previously and the things they like, because the new things may not be good.
so just I mean I just don't watch it. Like go get your DVDs. Watch. I mean
Yeah,
like most of Star Trek's on Netflix. I mean I'm a comic book reader. I'm used to just like oh 30 years of continuity have been thrown out the window. Oh my.
yeah. You've been beaten to death with that. Like you've been
Yeah.
trained to
I mean
just throw it out the
someone from
window.
Marvel literally came to my door, kicked it in, and took all of my issues of Darkhawk when they rebooted it, shredded them right in front of me. I cried. It was terrible.
Yeah, and so I guess you don't have as much dog in this fight than I do. I know, audience, we've gotten a little tangential with our conversation piece, but I promise it's all related. Just go with it. Swim. Just keep swimming. Um, what was I talking about? No, it's just continuity and reboots and like managing expectations along the lines of like nostalgia is a powerful emotion for people. They want what they had, and but again, and more of it. and it's very dangerous to sort of like try to inject something new. And so I understand why people, especially modern day movie studios, are like, no, just reboot it. We'll do it. Everyone will come out in droves and spend money. That's what we want them to do. But if you don't do it right, you're just gonna have a giant flaming turd on your doorstep. I'm trying to think of what was a bad like reboot, something that just did not work at all. RoboCop was okay.
Yeah. I tend to err on the side of the originals, except in the case of Judge Dredd. I really like
Oh
the
no no
reboot
no
a
no no!
whole lot
That
better.
was amazing. That's a good example of a very good reboot, an extreme because that one was. If you do some reading, you'll find out it was more closer to the comic books than it was anyone's like artistic interpretation of the comic book, and because of that, fans got behind it. It was also really well done. They had Carl Urban is a great actor. He's actually, I think, a great like action hero. Like he is sort of a modern day Stallone type. And they had the woman who plays Cersei from Game of Thrones was the villain. Was Mama? What was her name?
Lena Headey,
Yeah,
I'm sure you pronounce her last name.
she did a fantastic job as Mama, and that just had the feel of like the post-apocalyptic, like hot, crowded city, and that was a really good example. The only example I have of a bad one is the original Planet of the Apes, not Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the ones that were made like in the early 2000s with
Yeah, the Tim Burton one.
yes, I was like that. It was kind of good, but it was really mostly bad.
Yeah,
Um,
I didn't like it at all.
No. Trying to think of the bad ones. Now we obviously got a lot of with Fellowship of the Ring and big epics like that. We started getting a lot of sequels and trilogies, which I actually consider trilogies different than sequels because trilogies are all tied with like one arcing story with like a smaller narrative in each story, whereas a sequel is like we've already told this one story, we're going off and telling another story with the same group of characters. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, so I guess we could guess. I guess sort of a Star Trek, Star Wars, like Star Wars, Force Awakens, total sequel, no
Yeah.
rebooting. Although in my opinion, I thought the movie really just was kind of a tone for tone, really repeated a lot of the same beats as Episode
I
Four.
think that was J.J. Abrams' absolute intent to be like
Yeah.
we need to reintroduce an entire multiple generations to what is does Star Wars feel like in the movie theaters. A lot of them probably saw New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, but let's really give them the feel that this is the Star Wars they remember. Because Star Wars is such a big franchise that if he would have tried to do something too new with it, it could have really easily collapsed in on itself. People could have easily rejected it, and too much money and too much time was put in there not to. So I don't blame him for doing it, and he did a good job.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I saw the movie twice. I really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
Actually, the only one I was alive for when it was originally released in theaters was Return of the Jedi, but I did catch them all when they re-released them when I was in high school, and I went with some friends of mine. And we booked a triple feature and watched all three in the theater same day.
Yep.
Although they were the special edition extra footage versions, so that was kind of the one downside.
So, yeah, Force Awakens is another good example of that's a sequel because it has new characters, but old characters are in there and they're passing on the overall narrative to a younger audience. And that's just because it's a 40-year-old franchise. Like, you can't do more stories with the old actors. Um, so I'm interested to see what Ghostbusters is going to be about. I'm trying to think of what else is going to probably have a sequel or a reboot soon.
I kind of feel like every movie that comes out it's just set up to become a franchise. I mean, I guess that's probably the biggest
Well, that's
negative
what
of
they're
all the
doing.
superhero movies. Is just everything has to be a franchise. Like,
Well, that's how they
do
make
we
their
need
monies
another?
now.
Yeah, do we need
And
another
that and go
Pirates
to
of the
China.
Caribbean movie? Yeah,
Are you
and it's
kidding
like,
me? So audience, just on a lark, I googled Reboot Movies 2016, and IBDBM has all upcoming movie remakes and reboots. The Crow, American Werewolf in London, Dirty Dancing, Drop Dead Fred, War Games. Really? We're gonna go here. Oh, and I heard Treacherous is a trilogy, by the way.
Oh, I mean, at least. I mean, I could
Yeah.
easily see that becoming the next like Friday the 13th.
It should be the same movie, but just faster the second and third time.
It's a 5% speed increase
Yeah, exactly.
with
And
every level.
so
Yeah, I'm actually glad that the new quasi sequel, quasi rebooted Terminator franchise died and died
yeah, okay. So
hard.
speaking of reboots and sequels, all right. Everyone loves Terminator 2. Terminator 3 was utter crap. In Terminator Genesis, they basically just said that never happened, just like the TV show did, which the TV show was amazing, by the way. Everyone should have watched it and should have got a third season. I watched Genesis and I liked the movie. They were so like, this is totally going to be the reboot franchise game winner that we wanted, guys. We're going to lace this entire movie with big old question marks that we won't answer for another movie or two. It'll be great. God, it was not good. Like, it was great up until the end. The ending of the movie was what killed it for me because it's too nice of a movie. Have you seen it?
No, honestly, the trailer was enough for me to go, you know what? I am
Oh,
not going to
okay.
waste my
So
money on
my
this.
rant soapbox, and I'm gonna go into spoiler territory, everyone. If you really care about Terminator Genesis spoilers, I'm okay. Just go on
Yeah,
like another
I
10
read a
minutes.
synopsis of the movie, so I sort of know overall
Okay,
what happened,
so
and that was enough for me to
what
just
told me
stay
this
away.
movie was not going to be good was the trailer. The trailer itself. That's a whole other topic I could get into about trailers and spoiling movies. They showed you a big twist in the trailer. So John Connor became the Terminator. Wow. The ending, what drove me nuts is was it too uplifting. So at the end of Terminator 2, the Arnold Schwarzenegger's model gives his life for John Connor and his mother, and it's a very emotional scene. You get the whole thumbs up in the lava. It's great. You understand a machine learned to care for a human and learned what self-sacrifice was. Great. They try to repeat that message, but instead of the Terminator dying, he gets a whole new body, and Judgment Day was never actually averted, and John Connor was the villain the entire time. It's like, and, oh, also the entire message of the movie is like, I'm gonna screw robots. When I'm like, John Connor the entire time is like, you guys don't understand. I'm a better, stronger human being by merging with Skynet. I am basically what we should all become. I'm more capable and in control than I ever have been. Why are you fighting me on this? And the entire Sarah and the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Kyle Reese are just like giant middle fingers to Skynet, and I'm like, that's not a very interesting story. And so it ends on like a positive note, and obviously just like a lead on to the rest of the franchise, to the detriment of the movie. That's
Yeah, I kind of feel like they recycled some of the stuff they wanted to do with Terminator Salvation. I mean, Terminator 3 was basically like Schwarzenegger wants a paycheck and we don't care
some
what happened in Terminator 2.
yeah,
And then
and
with the original concept for Terminator Salvation was that John is injured at some point in the movie and they take an organ
give yourself a
transfer.
second. You're roboting. You're breaking up. Skype's having issues with you, so give yourself a second. Yeah, I think what Chris was saying, so audience members, until he gets back, hopefully he comes back, is that in Terminator Salvation, it was supposed to be also a reboot of the Terminator franchise, and I actually enjoyed it, but I don't know. I liked it. I'm not exactly sure why people didn't like it. Chris, are you back?
Yeah, am I doing
Yeah,
okay?
you're better now.
Okay, so as we all know in the actual movie, Christian Bale's John Connor, he gets hurt. They have to do a heart transplant, so they take the heart out of Sam Worthington's proto Terminator.
Yeah,
The
Cyborg.
original
He was actually a
ending,
cyborg.
yeah, the original ending was sort of the opposite, in which case, instead of taking his heart out, they take the brain out of Sam Worthington and they take John Connor's brain and put it in the robot shell. And John Connor, the freedom fighter, is basically a Terminator, but he still decides to carry on the fight
Yeah.
for the cause of humanity, even though I have just become our greatest enemy and what we all fear.
Yeah, that was actually, and again, we're going on a tangent here. That's kind of what they were starting to talk about in the TV show. In the TV show, they basically said, screw Terminator 3, it never happened. And they brought it into modern day. And what they were starting to talk about is that not all the machines were behind Skynet. There was a machine civil war going on in the background. And the reason John was such a successful fighter for humanity wasn't because he was just a badass person. He had sort of he had another Skynet that was his friend, that was like teaching him how to beat Skynet because it knew the value of human life. And it was also other machines were allying with John because it had an alternative to Skynet's like homogenous control. And because we didn't get season 3, we're left like just hanging, like, because in the end of the again, more spoilers, at the end of season 2, John goes to the future to see how the future ends up. And we never get resolution on it. It was fascinating, utterly fascinating, because it was trying to make the machines out to be more than just the bad guys. It was trying to show that they were whole persons, beings, intelligent beings that could have their own thoughts and feelings on things. It was really cool. Which, again, if you want to get into like reboots and sequels, the television show is another way of like rebooting or continuing or sequeling a story in a good way because it expanded the universe that you were telling, that you had already established.
Well, they have time travel on their side as they literally just time travel past. They took the sort of post Terminator 2, pre Terminator 3, John and Sarah, and they just jumped them past the
Yep,
timeline of Terminator 3 and
insane.
just
That
avoided.
never happened. It, which
Just
they
avoided. I
also
mean,
which they
they
do
did
in
keep it.
Genesis as well. They do a
Yeah,
lot of time jumping around to get them to
and
2017.
yeah, there was some alternate time. Yeah,
Don't even start thinking
yeah,
about it. Let's just stop
makes
there.
my head hurt. Although the greatest thing about Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, was it made me care about Brian Austin Green again.
Well, that was the.
It was
I'm really bad with
John's dad.
names.
It's
I got.
John's uncle. It was
Oh yeah,
played
yeah,
by
yeah.
actor
Oh yeah,
Brian
yeah.
Austin Green, who was the obnoxious kid from 90210.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say is all those characters, all those actors were solid in that show. Like no one did a bad job. Who played John Henry, which was the alternate to Skynet? Because he's in a lot of things and he is a fantastic actor.
You mean the sort of the first Terminator that comes after John?
Yeah, but he becomes John Henry, the other AI, because they use the body of the Terminator that comes back to basically make an interface for John Henry, the AI.
I want to say that was Garrett Dillahunt, who's in like he's sort of like the modern actor guy that's just in everything
Yeah,
and just is
he's
incredibly
not. Yeah,
versatile.
he's really cool because he's been in a lot of things I really love, like Deadwood. He's been in Deadwood. He actually plays in Deadwood as two separate characters, and they're very different from each other. And it's fascinating. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I actually prefer him in comedies. He was amazing in Raising Hope, and I really
yeah,
wish that show had gone on
he's got
longer.
a great range. He does drama and comedy equally well. He's a great actor. I'm glad he's getting work. But anyways, back to reboots and sequels. What else can we say about them? Obviously, we've established what a reboot and kind of what a sequel is supposed to be. A reboot needs to try to pay good homage to the original, but needs to sort of walk on its own 2 feet. And a sequel needs to keep within continuity. If you go too left field with a sequel, you could really get yourself in some trouble because you start writing yourself into corners. Now, I was watching something recently. If anyone's out there it loves movie reviews, really good ones, look up Movies with Mikey on YouTube. You will not regret it, I promise. He just released something called Prisoners of Azkaban, his analysis. And in that review, he sort of showcases where a good sequel can deviate from previous established continuity and do it well, because he, in his review of Prisoners of Azkaban, he looks at the idea of, by giving more of like Harry, Hermione, and Ron, yeah, Ron, sort of their own personalities. They dress themselves. They're not always in Hogwarts clothing. They have most of the dialogue in the entire movie. Really establishing their own identities. We start seeing those three characters as themselves, whereas the previous two movies, they're not dressing themselves. They're always in uniform. They start sounding and acting a lot alike, so they don't distinguish their characters from one another. It's really in a fascinating way, and that's what sequels need to do in the long run, especially big franchises like Harry Potter, to keep themselves fresh. Hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, I think James Cameron is sort of the master of the sequel. He did it really well in Terminator, really well with Aliens franchise, where you have, number one is just a flat out horror movie.
Oh yeah.
With both Alien and Terminator, it's just this one singular, unholy, unstoppable thing is coming for you, and there is no escape. And then he just mushrooms the universe with the second one. I kind of wish they would let him do that to more movies.
Yeah, well, here, James Cameron, actually, I'm glad you brought Alien and Aliens too. That's a great example of, like, a sequel playing with tropes and deciding to do something fresh and new instead of just retelling the first one over again. Because Alien is a great example of horror. Aliens, the sequel, is a great example of dark fantasy. It has to do with how much agency the protagonist has, how much ultimate hope there is, and like proactively being able to deal with the situation. And you're right, James Cameron can make sequels. However, Prometheus, or was that that was James Cameron. Yeah, he did Prometheus,
No,
right?
that was Neil Blomkamp, I think. It was
No.
the original guy that did Aliens, who's Ridley Scott. I'm gonna look that up on IMDb real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I could have sworn James Cameron did Prometheus.
I actually haven't seen that. It's kind of on my movies I want to see, but just haven't gotten around to.
When you do, we're gonna have a nice long conversation about it because. No, Ridley Scott. Okay, never mind. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
Scott
why
is
it was
the
different. Never mind. My comments are null
director.
and void because I forgot he didn't do it. Yeah.
I think Neil Blomkamp had thought about doing his. Is if they hadn't done Prometheus, they were going to do some Alien sequels that cut in. I want to say like after Alien 3, but before Alien Resurrection.
That's an interesting. Also, Josh Whedon, everyone. Alien Resurrection is a Josh Whedon film. Watch that dialogue. You will see the why it's a Josh Whedon film.
He also used to write for Roseanne.
Yes. And Mr. Martin of the Game of Thrones fame wrote for Beauty and the Beast, the '90s television show.
Yeah, with Ron Perlman. My mother loved that show.
It wasn't actually a bad show. I remember watching it a couple times.
I enjoyed it.
Again, we're going on a bit of a tangent. I do not mind the old style cheesy 1990s television show, like Beauty and the Beast, RoboCop, and The Flash, like the original Flash. All of those are like my childhood, and they're amazing because you watch them at 11 o'clock to 2 in the morning on a weekend when you got nothing else better to do when you're 12.
And Swamp Thing, the TV series.
Yes, that was also a very good one. I like the movies too.
It's really good, dark, creepy. I like I used to catch it on USA.
Oh yeah, terrible body horror, like just gross.
Yeah.
Like The Fly and Fly 2. Also, very good movie with a good sequel is Fly and Fly 2. Both gross and horrific. Now, Fly is better than Fly 2, but because it obviously doesn't have Jeff Goldblum in it. But it's still a really good movie. It's a good horror movie. Think what else? What are some examples of bad reboots? Like, no, let's go with bad sequel. No, we've already talked about bad sequels. We've talked about bad reboots. What else?
I just want to go off on a slight tangent since we were talking about Harry Potter and weird body horror movies. If you get a chance,
I want to see where this goes. Come on, hit me, man.
If you get a chance, go see Swiss Army Man.
I've been wanting to see that because
he literally plays a corpse whose flatulence is powerful enough to propel him like a jet ski.
Yeah, it's the reason why besides it looking like just the most bizarre movie ever made, uh
I mean, it's really just
Daniel
it's
Daniel
basically.
Radcliffe. Daniel
Mhm.
Radcliffe. I will remember these names one day. Daniel Radcliffe. That's him the entire time. Other than doing like some very extreme stunts, that's him. They originally
Yeah.
like the actor or the director made a body double for him because he wouldn't want to like be like comatose the entire time. But he was like, but Daniel Radcliffe was like, no, I'll do it. And he was for like 99% of the movie. That's Daniel Radcliffe acting and being a corpse. So I'm
He
like,
actually does have some lines in the movie. It's mostly Paul Dano that does all the talking and Daniel Radcliffe, and there's a few other cast members, but even the I guess the other cast member who got top billing, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, has
mm.
roughly 5 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, it's just those two actors pretty much throughout the whole movie. Sort of like Castaway is basically just Tom Hanks.
It's basically like Castaway meets Taxi Driver.
I'm okay with that. I want to see that. I will see it probably. I probably won't see it in theaters, but when I got it on Netflix,
Yeah, it's
I'll get the
it's it's
DVD and I'll
playing
watch
in
it.
around Atlanta in the little like artsy like theaters, so like Midtown Arts and I think LaFont Plaza, maybe the Terra, but
Oh,
it's definitely worth seeing.
something that I eventually want to do. Speaking of like movies and stuff that's coming up, for Geek Taco, which is I forgot to mention is what this is the website that this podcast and video cast is presented by. I did an article a while back talking about Batman v Superman, and recently I got to see the full hour extended Ultimate Edition that they put in a lot of things that were cut and they re-edited the movie together. It's still not a good movie, but it's better. It fills out some character work that needed to be done. I see why they cut some of what they cut out of it. Like there was a lot of filler. They should have cut other things, but but it does become a better, more palpable movie. I still don't think he played Lex Luthor.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenberg still not a good Lex Luthor. However, I may have mentioned this in my article that I wrote. Jesse Eisenberg does a great job in one scene where I'm like, that is Lex Luthor. I see why you got the part. Like, you
Yeah,
see exactly why he
I
got
know
the.
the scene you're talking about, and I was like, why wasn't he like this for the entire movie?
Yeah, if he had been like that the entire movie, I'd been like, no, he's a great Lex Luthor. But he's not.
I
Have you
felt
seen the
mostly
Ultimate
like
Edition?
no,
All right.
you're gonna need to like plan me with alcohol or something.
Okay, I'm gonna spoil something because you're probably not gonna watch it. Again, spoilers, everyone. Go ahead about a few minutes. Okay, the reason he's crazy at the end and he goes a little batty, haha, is he sees one of Darkseid's sons. You would know his name,
Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf. Yes, they actually show a CG Steppenwolf. Just before they
It,
arrest him, Steppenwolf's there. The guys come in to arrest him, and he like disintegrates into nothingness. Like so, they think he's just a figment. But
yeah,
Lex Luthor knows better.
yeah. I kind of figured that, and it might have just been the way they edited the movie. I sort of figured, once he got his hands on the Kryptonian technology and sort of had his mind open, and like it broke him.
Mm,
But he was really acting kind of nutty before then, and I almost was like, Jesse Eisenberg, you're not auditioning to play the Joker. You're auditioning to play Lex Luthor. Just
yep.
just stop.
Yeah,
Like
and that's
get some pointers from Kevin Spacey and just and
yeah.
just stop.
It. Lex Luthor needs to feel powerful and control in every scene that he's in, and most of Jesse Eisenberg runs around looking like a really nervous nerd who's really smart but doesn't know how to interact with anyone or control a situation. Other than that one scene that we've talked about.
Yeah. Now, if he'd sort of been sort of the I'm going to present myself as sort of this kooky CEO, well, and then all of a sudden he steps into a closed office and just, goes completely just this is what's going
Yeah,
to
like he
happen.
has a
I will make it
front, like he
happen.
has this like weird nutty like front, but the moment that he goes like behind closed doors, he is all effing business.
Yeah,
I would
and he
have
just
been
he
down
just
with that
he just
too.
didn't do it, and I just really wish they would recast that part or just
And since
cut
we've
him
been
out of the
talking
later
about
DC
sequels,
movies.
since we've been talking about sequels, we're gonna wrap up soon. But supposedly the Justice League movie, they are going to, instead of making it like another, they're keeping it from being two additional movies. They're gonna cut it down to just one movie. It's just gonna go Justice League, and supposedly the tone is much more lighthearted and fun,
Oh yeah,
which I'm
DC. I think shortly before the comic book Rebirth thing, they just sort of just took an axe to their entire film department and
yes,
shuffled a
yes
bunch
they
of people
did.
around and were like, "Look,
Um,
Batman versus Superman did not build the
do
hype
what
we
you
wanted it
wanted.
to. Yeah, didn't monetarily do what we wanted, so they were like, we're going back to the drawing board, and I applaud them for doing that. I hope it pays off.
I do too. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they'll do with it. Um, uh, Man, I'm getting tired.
I mean,
The
it is 10 o'clock, which is our traditional
Yeah,
wrap up time. So
yeah. I want to finish this last thought and then we'll wrap everything up.
okay,
The gentleman who plays Ben Affleck, the guy who plays Batman. I applaud this guy because supposedly, learned recently he hates Armageddon, and I need to watch the commentary about his discussion about why he hates Armageddon. He's a fantastic director. He was probably in agony the entire time doing Batman v Superman, going, "Why are you doing this? Why are you making me do this?" And he is like, you could see in his face when he's been getting criticism that this man is mad, he is upset, he is pissed, and that's why I look forward to the Batman solo movie that he's doing, because he's a great director. He's directing it, he's helping write it, and he's going to act in it. And I'm like, no, this guy is going to be a great Bruce Wayne Batman in his solo film, and I look forward to seeing what he does in the Justice League movie. I really, really do. And that's my closing thoughts on that.
all right. Well, Matt, when the new Batfleck movie comes out, it's a date.
All right, fair enough. I agree. I love it. All right, so if you would like to send us your feedback, everyone, tell us how we're doing, you can go to taco salad at geektaco.com. If you would like to personally communicate with us, if you cannot see our VCast here, I am at Bioimportance on Twitter. Chris, where can people find you?
I am at Mutant Biscuit on Twitter, although I'm going to caveat that and say I very rarely check my Twitter, so you
But if
might
he
be
gets
waiting
a
a
whole
while on
bunch
a
of
response.
followers, he'll be incentivized to get on Twitter more. So people, follow Mutant Biscuit on Twitter. And unfortunately, Kaylee would normally be here. She has promised to be here next week. She is, I believe, she is at,
Shadow Dawn with an underscore at the end.
yes, at Shadow Dawn with an underscore. And so there you can reach us, all three of us, at on Twitter. And from everyone here at Taco Salad, geek out.